Hannah Hope, Bazaar on Sunday, editor at The Sun on Sunday. Is that your full title?
Sun on Sunday, Showbiz editor.
Oh, OK. I was bigging you up there a little bit.
Thank you, my darling.
She is the CEO of News UK. Now, it is Hannah Hope. So I think we're going to start off with the more serious story that we have, and that is Gregg Wallace. It's your front page today. More revelations coming out about him. The thing is that it's sort of gone from... This is Greg the Groper, your front page today. These allegations have gone from... OK, sort of bit creepy, inappropriate, not nice comments being made in the workplace, making a lot of women feel really uncomfortable, to actually now physical contact with a lot of women. So it's sort of ramped up a bit, hasn't it?
It is ramping up, and it feels like, as is often the case with these things, once an allegation is made, the floodgates do open. Because obviously, you know, for women in the workplace, their hands are tied, and men in the workplace, you know, as we saw with Hugh Edwards, they find it very difficult to come forward because for fear of losing their job and going down an HR route, which is very difficult. And if there's a certain culture that they work in that's just accepted, I mean, Gregg's been on the show for decades, working for the BBC, working at the production company. So maybe people felt like this was just the accepted culture. But now some really sinister allegations are coming out and coming to light. And I don't see a way back for him from this, personally.
Because now 3 different women have said that he has groped them. Of course, he's taking legal advice. He is in a position where, at the moment, he is denying this impropriety. But one former contestant even alleged he groped her while she was cooking on the set of MasterChef. This was 12 years ago. He pressed himself onto me from behind. I moved away. Then he called me a stupid cow.
Another woman claims here that he told her in a busy pub that she aroused him and he squeezed her bum. So, you know, that, like you say, that is physical contact and it's unwanted, you know, sexual.
What about this
contact? Bullying
side of things? The thing about the bullying, we were talking about this a bit earlier, to what extent do we, the public, and TV execs and everything, have to accept that what was once acceptable entertainment in 2024 would be considered bullying? Because we don't watch MasterChef or it used to be the X Factor or any of those sorts of shows because we want to see people's nice dinners, generally. We watch them because we want that moment where they say, oh, my God, this tastes disgusting. Or Simon Cowell says, oh, my God, you can't sing for toffee and you're too fat. You know what I mean? And that used to be the entertainment we liked. Is there a danger that some of this bullying, not groping, but bullying, is actually being viewed through 2024 eyes? Yeah,
I suppose you're right that, you know, the lines can be blurred between bullying and a stage persona, which is different to sexual assault on set. And you're right, the perceived entertainment has changed. You know, Nasty Nick, Simon Cowell, even Craig Revel-Horde on Strictly Come Dancing admitted last week that he doesn't feel that he can make the catty remarks that made him famous for fear of being cancelled. But I think the culture changes, we modernise, the accepted entertainment of yesteryear just doesn't stand in 2024.
As well, I'm a great fan of The Apprentice. I mean, it's nonsense, and they're not actually looking for anyone who's a particularly great business brain, but it's good entertainment. But now, every single person that Lord Alan Sugar fires, he says, so now, with regret, you'll find... Now, he used to save the with regret for really special people that you knew he liked. Now he says it for every single one of them, because I feel like he's got to now be a little bit more soft and cuddly. And I don't know, I think it's a shame, because I like some of that brutality.
You're right. I mean, look at Gordon Ramsay. He's built a whole career on his F-word, you know, his expletive-ridden kind of narrative. But I think as well, you know, he used to have Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. I don't know if that show would land as well in 2024.
Well, do you remember there was the big argument with Amanda Barry in there?
I don't remember that
Amanda
one.
Barry was on it, and they had...
Former Corrie actress.
Former Corrie actress, and they had a huge row and you know, shouting in each other's face. And I just don't think... I just think that on 2024 standards, you look back at that and you go, oh my God, that was awful. But at the time, it wasn't. And at the time, he probably had producers in his ear saying, no, you need to be nastier. No, you need to really go for it. And without a doubt, that would be what would have been in his ear. There would have been commissioners for the channel saying, this is what we actually want. So, look, that's aside from some of these horrific sexual inappropriate behaviour. So this is it now for Gregg Wallace. He's over, right? Well,
obviously the investigation is still ongoing at the BBC. As far as we are aware, this is not a criminal police investigation at the moment, and he is proclaiming his innocence. But as we have seen with these situations, it is very hard to come back from, especially this week when we saw Sir Rod Stewart take to social media and accuse...
Chubby bully.
Yes, accuse Gregg of bullying his wife, Penny Lancaster. And you know, then underneath that, there was dozens of comments from saying, you know, just anecdotal comments saying, well, I saw him in a pub and he was rude. Charlotte Crosby from Geordie Shore said that he was vile to her when she was on MasterChef. I just don't know how he can come back from this. And John Turode is in a very interesting situation, isn't he? Because they've allegedly been like very good friends for decades, but John Turode has kept a very sort of silent...
No, I don't think they are friends.
Well, they were friends and now they don't holiday together and they don't...
and
he's distanced himself.
Well, I think I'm going to look it up because I'm sure I saw an article where he basically said, he was asked about Gregg Wallace by someone on Twitter, and he said, I was never friends with him.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I think it was sent a few years ago, and it's kind of re-emerged, and that was what he basically said about it. And I'm just trying to find it. But yeah, there are definitely articles about what he has said about him already. So it's an interesting story, and it's interesting that this has happened again at the BBC.
I know. And so in the year that, you know, Hugh Edwards has been found guilty at court, we've also had Jay Blades, and he's been through a case with his ex-wife. He's had to step down from the repair shop.
That's ongoing, isn't it? Yep.
And it just feels that there's, and obviously all the BBC Strictly Come Dancing drama with their investigation and bullying on that show.
Can I ask a question, though, about the BBC? And maybe you'll think that the Philip Schofield thing sort of outweighs this, though, of course, that was on
ITV.
That was on ITV, and that's my question. Do you think that the fact that you and I both work in a commercial environment, right? If your articles don't sell papers, if shows that I have presented haven't rated, then you're in trouble. The BBC get their money, whatever. And do you think that there is now, we need to ask, you know, whether the lack of jeopardy around the funding has meant that certain behaviours just get tolerated? Because whereas in a commercial broadcaster, if there is bad behaviour, you will lose advertisers, you will lose a sponsor, you will lose money. The BBC never have to worry about that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's heaped in bureaucracy, and the culture is very old-fashioned. It's renowned in the industry.
But it's money. They'll never lose the money.
They'll never. So where's the fear? All they've really got to be fearful of is bad press and people like The Sun holding them to account. Really. I mean, I suppose people will switch off, and some people will refuse to pay the licence fee. But you're right. They probably take for granted that their income is going to.
And that's a cultural, I think, thing in there that I wonder whether that is something that fuels the tolerance of bad behaviour, because there isn't that level of accountability that, frankly, losing your job or losing your commercial advertisers or any of that will bring you. And that is another question, I think, that the BBC needs to ask itself. And I don't say that as a BBC hater. I really like some of the output of the BBC, but I wonder whether that is a harsh reality that they perhaps need to face. Can we talk about I'm a Celeb? I haven't watched it this year, but I do love Jane Moore.
OK, well, it's actually been a really popular year. It's been bringing in 8 million viewers regularly every night.
Has it?
Yeah, and it's had a really, really cracking cast. You've got people like Colleen Rooney, you've got Oti Mabuse. The person who's been causing probably the most drama is Dean McCullough, who is he's a radio presenter. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm familiar with him, yes.
Oh, OK. What's your opinion of him? Because he's been driving people mad.
Well, OK, I have to be honest, I've not been watching this yet.
OK, but do you know him?
I don't know him.
Right.
I know of him.
OK.
I know he's very, very... I mean, he's makes...
sharp.
I mean, he makes Christmas, though, look like a sort of, a heterosexual event.
Right.
Because
he is gay.
I mean, he is as gay as can be. I mean, he's from, gay town, gay city, postcode gay. So, he's very, very overt and camp. So I know that about him, and I've seen a lot of controversy about the fact that people think he's sort of faking his fear at trials and things like that. But is he also being annoying to people?
Yeah, he's sort of fake. He's come in with a bit of a game plan, as you know with this show. If you act scared, the public will just vote you in for trials and trials and
then
trials.
you get more screen time.
Bagging you more screen time. Absolutely, you know the drill. You should go on it, Cristo. I'm sure you'd play an absolute blinder. But people are now realising that he might seem a bit fake. It could all be a game plan, and he's been having these spats with people, and people are thinking, who is the real Dean? Is he actually quite catty? He went up against Alan Halsall, Corrie's Tyrone, who, is practically a national treasure at this point. And, Alan Halsall...
Had an argument with him.
They had an argument, yeah, and Dean was sort of standing on these rocks, almost like standing over him, and it was quite... You should watch it on YouTube, it is quite funny, and Alan's trying to really not lose
and they actually aren't... Because that sounds... Because I'll tell you why I stopped watching I'm a Celeb, is because I was so sick to death I just felt like it's so tired, and also they're gonna have an argument over cooking.
Oh, well, they do always argue over chores
and I'm just so bored of it. And also the inane laughing of the crew that Anton Deck, literally Deck says, "Do you know what? I fancy going to the toilet," and everyone's like, "That's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life." It irritates me so much because I know I have been in those studios before, and I know that the crew are told to laugh.
Oh, really? That's so interesting. It just makes it like they're having such a good time all together.
I worked at The Big Breakfast, the executive producer who went on to be the first producer of I'm a Celeb. He used to scream in our ears when we were in the crew and we had the headsets on, laugh, laugh. So when Richard Bacon or Johnny Vaughan would make a joke, we were all told in our ears to screaming in our ears, laugh.
Oh, my goodness.
Because we all need to laugh at the jokes of the presenters, because otherwise the audience at home won't know that it's funny and won't think they're funny, and so therefore that is the culture of it. And that's what, they're not that funny, but the crew, they sound like they're actually having a hysterical episode whenever they speak.
Oh my gosh, talk about toxic workplace environment. Having to laugh on demand, that's quite exhausting, isn't it? It's actually physical exertion.
Absolutely exhausting, being shouted at for not laughing enough at what Richard Bacon has to say.
That's so funny.
It was true. That's what used to happen all the time. OK, so Jane Moore.
Jane Moore. So she's the oldest female campmate. She's in her 60s, Sun columnist. She's actually worked so hard. She's been really hardcore in the trials. She's the first contestant to be voted out. Ruth Langsford, fellow loose woman, flew out to greet her, and she's been on the spin-off show. So Ruth's having a nice little summer holiday. I bet this is the I'm a Celeb producers trying to lure her in to do the show next year herself, as a comeback from her split from Eamon Holmes. But yeah, I think that Jane has been very hardy. She came out last night, had a glass of champers with Anton Deck and, the laughing crew, but she did it like she'd lost a lot of weight, and you were sort of thinking, gosh, this woman's just worked really hard not eating anything for 2 weeks in the jungle. When you can see some of them are losing weight and you start to worry a little bit.
I worked with Jane for a long time, and I absolutely loved her. Her bite is worse than... No. Her...
Bark is worse than her bite?
Yes.
OK.
Yes. She's actually a very, very lovely, lovely lady, and a really good journalist.
I think this hard-working ethic really came across. She's not just been a kind of diva celebrity born with a silver spoon in her mouth. She is really prepared to put some hard work and graft in.
The number of times I would write a brief for her for a celeb that was coming on the show and that we worked on, and I'd write a brief, and she was so annoying. I mean, I loved her for it, but she was so irritating, because I would hand her the brief and I'd say, this is the celeb that's coming on, and she'd say, yeah, but are we asking them this question? and it would be the most obvious, brilliant question, and I'd just, oh God, Jane.
Oh, and you hadn't told her?
No, I hadn't thought of the question.
So she outshone you in your journalistic skills.
And always as well, I would say to her, okay, we're going to do this debate, and it's going to be about like assisted dying, a really heavyweight debate. And so, you know, and so this is like the way we need to get into the debate, blah, 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 blah. And she would say, oh, yeah, that's absolutely fine. And then she would go on screen and she would condense it into one sentence, everything I had just given her.
Amazing.
And do it as sharp as a tack. She's so good.
So are you telling me
so good.
that other loose women aren't quite that sharp and they get their lines written for them, Cristo?
I'm saying that Jane Moore is very, very sharp. That is what I am saying, and I am saying absolutely nothing else. OK, finally, tell me about the celeb show that I love.
So Traitors starts in January. The normal Traitors, it's all pre-filmed, but obviously there's no spoilers, so we are going to be on the edge of our seats watching it in January. But they are filming in the spring to air October next year, Celebrity Traitors. And the lineup, Cristo, is amazing.
Who's in it?
So we've got Stephen Fry. Sir Stephen Fry is doing it, which is insane.
So they're actual proper celebs doing this.
Really good celebs. Tom Daley, Alan Carr, Courtney Cox from Friends is actually doing it.
Friends is doing it. This is like a proper celeb lineup.
Daisy May Cooper, like the best celeb lineup we've had in years. And I wonder why. I wonder if it's Claudia Winkleman's pull. I wonder if it's just the first ever celebrity version of the show.
Not eating like anus, and they're not like being thrown in gunge. They're actually it's quite an intelligent
reality show,
interesting show.
Yeah.
And it involves skill, and so I think that actually there also aren't rows generally, are there really?
Well, the only rows around the big round table where they're trying to work out what's happening on the game, but it's literally nothing to do with your personal life, so they're going to be super protected, and there's a chance that some of them could come across as really good game players or actors, so, you know, the plaudits they'll get are brilliant. And I do think as well, you just wonder who Claudia will make the traitor. I mean, it couldn't be Stephen Fry, could it?
No, but I think it will be Alan Carr, because I think that would be hilarious if he's got to try and sort of keep a straight face and not...
But it's got to be someone who can act, because he could give the whole game away, couldn't he?
Oh, well, that rules out Courtney Cox. OK, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hannah Hope, Showbiz editor at The Sun.